There is a kind of knowing that arrives before the evidence does. Something settles in the interior before anything in the exterior has shifted to justify the settling. The anxiety that was running quietly underneath everything begins to lose its grip. The low-level bracing that characterized the previous season starts to soften. And you find yourself, in ordinary moments, simply present, not managing, not anticipating the next difficulty, not scanning the horizon for what might go wrong. Just here, in the moment, with a quality of stillness that the previous season made almost impossible to access. That settling is not denial. It is not the numbness of someone who has stopped caring about outcomes. It is something more specific and more significant than either of those things. It is the interior registering, before the exterior confirms it, that something has genuinely shifted. That the season which required the bracing is releasing its hold. That what comes next is fundamentally different in quality from what just passed. Your interior knows things before your circumstances announce them. That knowing is worth trusting. The shift that is happening is not only in what surrounds you. It is in you, in the specific person who emerged from the difficulty that preceded this moment. That person is genuinely different from the one who entered the hard season, and the difference is not superficial. The capacity to hold uncertainty without being destabilized by it. The ability to remain present in situations that previously would have pulled you immediately into anxiety. The clarity about what actually matters that only develops when everything that does not matter has been stripped away by circumstances that left no room for pretending. These are not small developments. They are the essential developments. The ones that everything coming next actually requires. The hard season did not only take from you. It built something in you that the easier seasons never could have built. And that something, whatever name you give it, whatever form it takes in your specific interior, is the foundation on which what comes next is going to rest. Not a foundation that requires constant maintenance or perfect conditions to hold. A foundation that was tested by the very conditions that seemed to threaten it and proved durable under exactly the pressure it needed to prove itself under. That foundation is real, and what is going to be built on it is real in proportion to how genuinely it was tested. If these words are finding you at the right moment, subscribe so they can keep reaching you as the season continues to shift. What is being built here is built for exactly this kind of transition. There is a specific kind of openness that this moment is asking for that is worth naming directly, because it is different from the openness of someone who has not yet been seriously disappointed. The openness of untested hope is easy. It costs nothing because nothing has yet been lost. The openness being asked of you now has been preceded by real loss and real disappointment, and the real experience of hoping for something that did not come through. That history makes the opening genuinely costly in a way that it was not before. And yet the opening is what is required. Not a performance of openness. Not the posture of openness maintained while the interior remains defended. A genuine, real, costly decision to be available for what is approaching without holding part of yourself back from it as protection against another potential loss. This is one of the more demanding things a human being can do. To have been genuinely disappointed, and to choose genuine openness anyway. Not because the disappointment was not real, because what is approaching is real enough to be worth the cost of opening to it. Because the alternative, remaining defended, half-present, protected against a loss that may never come, costs more in the end than the loss it was designed to prevent. A defended life that never gets hurt is also a life that never gets fully reached by what was meant for it. The opening is worth the risk. And something in you already knows this, which is why the settling has been happening even before the circumstances have fully confirmed that it is warranted. There are specific areas of your life where the shift is going to become most visible first, and they may not be the areas you have been watching most carefully. The most dramatic changes in a life tend to arrive through doors that were not being monitored with the same intensity as the ones you were focused on. The peripheral vision catches what the fixed gaze misses. The fixed gaze tends to be on the things you have been hoping for most specifically, the circumstances that feel most urgent, the outcomes you have prayed for most consistently, the specific forms in which you have imagined the good things arriving. But arrival tends to be creative. It tends to use angles and approaches and forms that the imagination did not predict, partly because the imagination is working with familiar material, and arrival tends to come from directions that have not yet been made familiar. So while you are watching what you have been watching, and continue to watch it, because that attention is not wasted, also remain genuinely open to what is arriving in your peripheral vision. The conversation that seems incidental but carries something significant. The direction that feels sideways from where you were pointed but has a quality of rightness that the expected direction sometimes lacked. The opportunity that does not match the template but fits the actual person you have become rather than the version of yourself you expected to be when it arrived. Arrival is often more creative than anticipation. Stay open to the creativity. What you have been faithful with through the hard season is about to matter in ways that will become increasingly clear. Faithfulness in difficulty is a different kind of faithfulness than faithfulness in ease. It costs more. It requires more genuine trust rather than the kind that simply rides along with favorable circumstances. And it produces something that the easier kind of faithfulness cannot produce: a proven quality, a demonstrated depth, a track record that is rooted in conditions that actually tested what it was tracking. That proven faithfulness is not invisible. It is registered, and it is being responded to, not as a transaction where accumulated faithfulness is exchanged for accumulated reward, but as a demonstration of character that makes certain things possible that would not have been possible without it. The person who has been genuinely faithful through difficulty is the person who can be trusted with what requires faithfulness to sustain. The preparation and the arrival are not separate. The preparation is what makes the arrival sustainable rather than merely momentarily exciting. What is coming is designed for the version of you that the faithfulness produced. Not a more deserving version. Not a version that did everything right. The actual version, shaped by real difficulty and real choosing and real imperfect perseverance, that emerged from the season you just walked through. This project continues because people have believed in it enough to support it. If that resonates, the description is where to find how. What is given from genuine care keeps this reaching people in seasons like yours. The peace that is settling in you is not the peace of resolution. The circumstances have not all resolved. The questions have not all been answered. The path is not yet entirely clear. But the peace is real anyway, which means it is not dependent on the circumstances cooperating in order to exist. That is the specific quality that makes it worth more than circumstantial peace. The peace that is only available when things are going well is useful when things are going well. The peace that is available regardless of circumstances is useful in every condition. And it is produced by exactly the kind of season you have been in. The season that required trusting without visible confirmation long enough to discover that the trust was not contingent on the confirmation. You have made that discovery. It is now part of what you carry, and it will serve you through everything that follows, not by preventing difficulty, but by ensuring that when difficulty arrives, as it will in any full and real life, it does not have the same power to remove your foundation that it might have had before this season taught you where the foundation actually lives. The foundation lives below the level where circumstances can reach it. You know that now, not as a theological proposition, but as something lived and proven. And that knowing changes the quality of everything that follows. There is one more thing worth saying about this specific moment, and it is perhaps the simplest thing. You made it. Through everything this season required. Every day you kept going when stopping would have been so much easier. Every moment of choosing trust without evidence. Every night that was longer and heavier than it should have been. Every morning you talked yourself back into continuing with nothing particularly encouraging to point to. You made it through. You arrived at the other side of it, not unaffected, not unchanged, but present, still here, still oriented toward what you know is true, even when what you could feel made knowing that truth very difficult. That is not a small thing. It is, in fact, the whole thing. The endurance is the credential. The staying is the qualification. And the person who stayed through all of that is the person who gets to receive what comes next. Receive it fully, without the defending and the bracing and the holding back that the previous season made necessary. Let what is coming actually land. Let the peace deepen. Let the opening be real. You're on the other side of the hard part, and what waits on this side has been worth every moment of getting here.